While fireworks are loved by many, it can be stressful and scary for some children, adults as well. Now, I always do suggest, as a pediatrician, you want to follow your kids' cues. And that's true for no matter what, but especially in situations like this where we may be watching fireworks ourselves and may not be able to see what our kids are doing if we're not paying close attention. So, of course, we have to do that. But here are some general tips that may help make the whole situation a little easier and that kids can enjoy fireworks better. So, let's talk about that. Hey everybody, it's Dr. David. So many of us when we were young children did have some level of fear when it came to fireworks until we kind of got an understanding of what it was all about, that it was something safe that we can enjoy with our family. But, let's face it, anytime a blast of fireball is going through the air, that could be pretty unsettling, especially if you're young and you don't know what that is all about. Okay? Now, in my previous video that I did about fireworks, which we are putting the link down in the description below, where I was talking about safety, and of course with safety can decrease anxiety as well, but that's a separate video, so I would encourage you to watch that if you haven't already. But really today we're going to be talking more about the common issues that can come about regarding fireworks that could have an effect on children and ways that we can help minimize that stress and make it enjoyable. Okay. And of course there could be fear, there can be anxiety, sensory overload, but also sleep disturbances. If we're putting our kids to bed early, or of course we know on a lot of times with the holidays, even after people come back from fireworks, if they're going, there are some people in the neighborhood that are firing off fireworks at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I know if you have animals too, pets, dogs, they don't do very well as well. So there are some things that we could do to even mitigate that. Okay. So first of all, and just some in terms of the practicalities, the further away that you are from fireworks, of course, the louder it's going to be. The quieter it'll be, closer up, obviously more loud. Also, the more that a person, if they're comfortable wearing earplugs, of course, and if you can lower the decibel coming to the eardrum, that of course too will make it not as loud and therefore not as scary. Now, sometimes though these fireworks, they can be jarring, like they almost like they rock your soul. You kind of can feel it inside. Imagine if you're a little kid and all of a sudden there's this blast that's happening, almost like it feels like an earthquake in a way. That could be really, really unsettling. And so, we want to make sure about that. But also, with fireworks, it's unpredictable when the next one may come. As with fireworks, sometimes it could be a bunch in succession, pop, 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 pop. And then another one, it could be a few seconds, or you may start to see the flame go up before the pop, or sometimes there's the pop when it goes off and then a louder pop. So because there is not predictability in the pattern, that could be very scary as well, because you don't know when it's coming. Obviously, if there's something, like if someone's playing a drum very loud, but boom, but boom, but boom, after a while, you're like, okay, here comes the next boom, I'm ready. But if you don't have that pattern understanding, that can be really scary. So you kind of want to be able to prepare them for that. Now, as I had said, ear protection with the most decibel protection, that's going to be helpful. But if you are going to be watching fireworks outside with your child, have a backup plan, have an escape plan, okay? Be able to move away quickly if there's loud and it's really starting the kids and the kids getting upset. This is something that happened to Benjamin when we were at Epcot. I'm going to guess he was maybe 4 or 5 years. We were right on the lake, and it was a real problem. And fortunately, I did know ahead of time, because my wife and I had talked about this as to where we could escape to, and we found that there was a bathroom that was not too far from the Canadian pavilion that we were able to get into and kind of like walk to the back of it. So at least we had the protection of a building to help muffle the sound. And I'm really glad that we had that, because within 10, 15 seconds, and then those are long fireworks. They can go, 5-10 minutes. So I just knew we needed to have a way of escaping, so that way Benjamin would be more comfortable, so that was something we certainly did. Now, as far as other types of protection, okay, so in terms of making your home a safe space, okay, and in terms of facilitating sleep, okay. Now, indoor noise can, of course, be reduced by setting up what we call a firework resistant sound barrier, or levels of sound barriers. So, of course, if an inner room as opposed to an outer room, can be more quiet, okay. But of course, what if your kid's trying to sleep in their room? So what we can do is we can set up it's like a wall of sound, but like with white noise. Now, with white noise itself, You don't want it to be louder than 65. Over 70 can actually damage. It's when you can start to have some hearing issues for long exposure. So of course, even if you need white noise for home, but but having several different barriers, so not just a white noise machine, but a fan, air conditioner, air purifier, a bunch of different fans, they're all of those can add to sound that can then muffle out the sound of the fireworks. It won't completely reduce it, but it'll decrease that sound. Again, using now also most phones you can get apps in the app store that will measure decibel levels. So of course, if you want to know if you're outside, am I damaging my kids' ears? That would be one thing to know. But also even inside, if you're trying to keep the decibel sound under 65 using those products, you can use it there. It's easy to find. They're free apps all over the place. Now, I do recommend that if you have fireworks that are coming up, like we're going to be having here, experiment a little with these noises while they're sleeping and explain to the kid why you're doing that. Because obviously that could be a noise that if they're not used to that could be a little bit disturbing as well. Because hey, this is not my sleep nest. This is not how it normally is. So you kind of want to let them know about that. Now, also playing soothing music for a child. Something that is soothing to them, something that they're familiar with, lullaby songs, things like that can also be not just another level of sound protection, but also the soothing aspect of it because it's something that they're familiar with. So if there's sounds going off in the background, but they're hearing a familiar sound, their brain is kind of like programmed to like that sound because they've heard it before, and it may not make those other sounds as scary either. Okay, now, part of a good approach is also preparing the kid. Okay. So if a child is old enough to understand, whether you're taking your kid to fireworks or it's going to be in the neighborhood and setting things off, let them know ahead of time that there are going to be loud noises. They need to understand this. They may not have a grasp as to what it'll be, but let them know it'll be a pop. Don't use a gun analogy in terms of a gunshot, just because that can be scary as well. Oh my God, people are shooting guns off. We don't want them to think that. But find like some videos of fireworks. Okay, they'll obviously hear the pop, but it won't be coming out so loud. But also the visualness. If a child has never seen these exploding lights, they're so beautiful, all of these colors. Let them see on a screen what those lights look like. So the first time that happens, that they don't think that there's a bomb going off or something else like that. That they can get familiar with it. Okay. Also for younger children, be prepared to comfort your child. Be prepared to hold your child. You may be wearing your child throughout the fireworks and maybe even into that night. You may need to sleep with your child that night in order to give them the comfort, especially if your neighborhood is sounding off throughout the night, etc. So again, how we comfort our child, and your kid the best. Right? Every parent knows their child. So following your kid's cues, a lot of parents can see just like little discomforts in their faces before a kid's totally losing it. And of course, if we can try to de-escalate things before they get too escalated, that's a good thing. Okay. So again, whether it's the calming words, holding them, also even like a weighted blanket, being under a weighted blanket can make a kid feel like that's kind of like that hug, that pressure that they feel is also. So like letting them sit on the couch if they're going to watch something with a weighted blanket, if you have it, that too can also be helpful. Now, another thing that you can do, you can even make it into a little game. Okay. You can prepare your kid ahead of time. Hey, whenever you hear that popping sound, you respond as you're a roaring lion. Pop. You could do it with your kid. Okay. They're gonna, whether it's a sound, it could be a barking dog. Let them bark whenever they hear the sound. A hissing sound like a snake. But just something that they can say, I'm preparing to, and make it into a game, which of course makes it relaxing. If you have more than one child, maybe you even create a symphony of animal sounds. Okay, what sound are you gonna be? Okay, what sound are you gonna be? Okay, whenever we hear that pop, let's all do it together. That can really just not destigmatize to make the child into a more comfortable situation where they are actually in control because they are choosing the sound. They are producing the sound. They are controlling their environment more. And of course, that's always going to be a better scenario for any kid. All right. So overall, what do we need to do? We need to be able to identify when our kids maybe not a sense of comfort, security, etc. These same things obviously hold very true for children with special needs, kids with autism, sensory auditory sensitive problems. But again, these types of recommendations or these tips would work for everybody. But again, preparing the sound for these barriers, preparing the kids for the sound. We don't want it to startle them. We want to have tools ready to go. All right. Well, Hope that helps you out, and have a great holiday. Bye bye.